I'm now going to talk about an ingredient called Baicalin. This is extracted from the roots of the Baikal skullcap, otherwise known as the Chinese skullcap or Scutellaria baicalensis georgii. This ingredient has been shown to have remarkable age-delaying activity when incorporated in cosmetics. To understand how this works, we need to know a little bit about the skin and skin aging. All human cells contain a nucleus made up of chromosomes, which in turn are formed from DNA, the double helix structure, which is basically the fingerprint of our individuality. Every time a cell replicates or divides, the double helix structure of the chromosomes divides, splits down the middle, and then replicates itself, therefore making two cells from one original. To prevent the DNA strands from becoming damaged during this process, the tips of each one are formed by something called telomeres, little structures which protect the DNA. These can be likened to the plastic or metal tips on shoelaces, which help to prevent them unravelling. These protective telomeres are sacrificial in nature. That is to say, each time the cell divides or replicates, a little bit of the telomere is damaged or lost. To counteract that loss, our bodies produce an enzyme called telomerase, which helps to rebuild or reform the damaged telomeres, thereby preserving the potential integrity of the chromosomes and the DNA structure. This is particularly so during our formative or growing years. However, as we get older, the production of the enzyme telomerase starts to decline and desist. And by the time we're in our mid-20s to 30s, its production has pretty well ceased altogether. This means that instead of the telomere structures being repaired, each time the cell replicates or reproduces, a little bit more of the telomere is lost. And once the length of these protective telomeres reaches a critical size, it can no longer protect the DNA structure of the cell. That means that the cells enter a state called senescence. Basically, they're unable to reproduce or replicate anymore, and they will eventually die. This is a fundamental part of our aging process. Studies have shown that skin cells called fibroblasts, which are responsible for producing connective tissue like collagen and elastin, have the ability to reproduce between 50 and 60 times before they reach the state of senescence. By the time we reach the age of 30, the number of potential replications of fibroblasts has dropped down to about 45. And for each decade that we age, the number of replications diminishes by a further 10%. Thus, by the time we reach the age of 70, the number of replications from a cell has reduced to around 30, half the number that it was able to reproduce at when we were young and growing. This brings us back to the ingredient Baicalin. In vitro or test tube studies have shown that Baicalin can trigger or stimulate the production of the enzyme telomerase in fibroblast cells. This means that where the telomeres were previously becoming damaged and not repaired, the action of Baicalin can reinvigorate the repair process by triggering the production of telomerase enzyme and thereby reduce the damage happening to the telomeres. Further studies showed that this increased the number of potential cell replications by 10%. That's equivalent to turning back the hands of time by 1 decade or 10 years. Further tests on human volunteers over a 56-day period showed that skin smoothness increased by over 13% and both firmness and elasticity improved by 10%. Baicalin is therefore one of the most effective ingredients we have to delay and possibly reverse skin aging.